Luncheon can be served as soon as the vicar arrives.
I fear we're making a terrible mistake.
But why? Surely if he is to be Humphrey's tutor, they should be better acquainted.
Papa is of the opinion that Mr. Webster may find himself called to be a missionary in darkest Africa, rather than take Humphrey as a pupil once he really knows the worst.
But Humphrey can be good. Sometimes.
I'm Dr. Grace and I'm going to play the Australian.
What is your book, Sarah?
The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Mamma. I brought it to read to Humphrey.
But that is a storybook, surely.
I'm sorry. I began it yesterday.
You must put it aside until tomorrow. You are setting the boy a bad example.
Then so is Eddie. And what is so bad about introducing our own nephew to new books and pastimes while he's with us?
What do you mean, and so is Eddie?
They're out there playing cricket.
On Sunday? And in full view, with a vicar coming. You must bring them in at once. The neighbours will think us absolute heathens.
Edmund! What do you think you're doing? Good morning, Vicar.
Good morning. A little activity, I see.
Humphrey, take Mr. Webster to your grandmama, will you? She's in the parlour. And then ask Nanny to make you tidy for luncheon.
Yes, Grandpa. This way, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. Edmund, a word with you. Your mamma is very distressed. Was it worth it?
No, sir.
You are aware that you're jeopardizing Humphrey's education with this tomfoolery. Since Sir George's death, neither Bertie nor Dora have time to teach him. They'll both be far too busy managing the estate.
Is that why Bertie had to leave the army?
Precisely. Now, Mr. Webster would be an admirable tutor if he can be persuaded that Humphrey would make a serious scholar. And fooling about with a cricket bat on a Sunday does not create a good impression.
Poor Humphrey. I shall apologise for him, Papa. I'll say it was my idea.
Yes.
Seems to me you can't do anything worthwhile on a Sunday.
Then there's the firm of Remington, for instance. After the American Civil War, what was to be done with all the workers and all the factory space devoted to the making of guns? Well, they were put to useful purpose, turning out sewing machines and typewriters.
I wonder how much of your sermon the boy understood, Vicar. Perhaps turning guns into typewriters would have more meaning for him than turning swords into plowshares.
You know what a plough is, don't you, my boy?
Yes, sir.
And a sword?
Yes, sir.
Well, was there anything you did not understand?
May I speak, Grandmama?
Of course, dear, when you're spoken to.
I bet the camels were unhappy.
Which camels? What was he talking about? Don't loll, Sarah.
He was worried about the Queen of Sheba going to Jerusalem with a great train.
And the camels having to put their heads out of the windows.
And getting smoke and smuts in their eyes.
Oh, now I understand.
So you see, in the East there are camel trains, and in this country there are steam passenger trains. And it is on one of those I shall take you to London for your birthday treat.
To London?
Your grandfather has considered that you shall begin your education with a visit to the new Natural History Museum. A clergyman has many blessings, Humphrey. Among them is the freedom on a fine morning to leave his books and wander forth in God's world, noting the bounties of nature. What observations we shall make, young sir. I promise you, you'll not find your lessons dry or dismal.
Master and pupil seem to be suiting each other admirably.
I do hope Humphrey can last until tea time without blotting his copybook.
Oh, it's only 2:30. How the day drags on. I'm tired of having nothing to do.
You could read the missionary magazine.
I've read it.
I wish I could do a few hours studying. What harm is there in that?
Do we have to have disagreeables every Sunday?
Edmund, take your sister for a stroll.
Here it is, Sabbath breaking. You're to do no work on the Lord's Day apart from work of necessity or charity. It's both. Reverend Charles said it would be all right.
What would? So you'll be leaving here then?
Leaving?
Oh, it'll be harder work than this. And 7 days a week.
What, Will? What have you got there?
It's a big step at your age, Mrs. Tandy.
It's one of Master Edmund's law books. Oh, you're off home for an hour, love. Have you laid the tea tray?
Aye. I want to catch Pa before he sets off on his travels.
Where's it going?
Nowhere. Pubs will only serve honest travellers on a Sunday, so Pa, he has to walk around for a bit as he can't buy a drink anywhere.
You see? Don't be too long, love. I might have some news for you when you get back. After Reverend Charles has been to tell the Master.
A day set apart from the other 6. It's not such a bad idea, really. Do you remember when Nanny put all our toys away, apart from the Noah's Ark?
Because it was in the Bible.
Yes.
Eddie, what do you make of Noah and the animals going in 2 by 2 and the world being created in 6 days? The Bible can't be wrong. What if Charles Darwin is right? He says it took thousands of years, and clever men like Papa descended from apes. I don't believe that, do you?
Well, you have to believe Mr. Darwin when he says he collected 68 species of beetle in 1 day without really trying. So you have either to believe that millions of different creatures were each created separately, or that the variety we have in the world today has evolved from the beginning of time.
I prefer to think of them 2 by 2 in the Ark, apes, beetles and all.
Your Mrs. Tandy has been called to do the work of the Lord, Doctor, and it ill becomes us to obstruct his ways.
Is it proper for Mrs. Tandy to run an hotel, sir? Mrs. is only a courtesy title due to her position in our household. She has no husband to protect her. What kind of hotel? One hears such dreadful stories.
Oh, a temperance hotel, ma'am, most respectable. A pub without beer. A refuge where the working man can enjoy apple pie order and comfort without having strong drink thrust at him. Where the traveller can rest with a pot of tea in sober company. Aye, and stay the night without waking to find his pocket picked. Not if Mrs. Tandy's there. We pray for guidance, and she's the answer.
Humphrey, go and ask Mrs. Tandy to come in here, will you? And ask her to bring another cup and saucer.
I am not in favour of the idea.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Hughes. Is your judgment not a little impaired with the thought of losing an excellent housekeeper?
No. Yes.
We are concerned about Mrs. Tandy's welfare.
What about the welfare of those who seek non-alcoholic refreshment in this town?
I hear that some of these teetotal places run at a loss. Has it crossed your mind that with Mrs. Tandy in the kitchen, this one could make a big profit?
Yes, it crossed my mind.
Now, Mr. Humphrey, what are you up to?
I'm going to read the Bible.
It's the only thing in this life won't lead you into mischief. Oh dear. I've gone all nervous. 27 years I've been here. I'll miss them.
Oh, go on. You can't have the penny and the bun.
Okay, then.
Look, we had a delightful walk, Mama.
Oh, really? Where did you go?
Ah, Mrs. Tandy. Come in, come in. We have reason to congratulate you, Mrs. Tandy. It makes us proud to know that the talents which we so selfishly have kept to ourselves for so long are to be more widely appreciated. I should like to propose a toast to the success of the new Bradley Temperance Hotel and the virtues of its manager. So if you will please raise your cups. Mrs. Tandy.
Mrs. Tandy.
I don't know what we shall do without you.
Sir, Mum, I'm terribly sorry, but I thought Master Humphrey was with you, and
No.
he's not. He's up a tree.
Up a tree? I really think you ought to.
Come with me, we'll go. Can you get through that?
And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind.
Humphrey! Come down from that at once. How dare you go tree climbing on a Sunday?
I thought you're in my church. In a minute, I'm going to say a sermon.
You'd better calm down, old chap. But be careful. If you break a leg, we can't go to London.
Perhaps Charles Darwin is right. We are a close relation to the apes.